All right. Greetings, dolphins. Welcome back to another lesson in library. This time we're going to be doing something a little different. I'm away right now due to various reasons, so we're going to be doing a video recorded lesson. We'll be talking about encyclopedias this week. So that is encyclopedia, encyclopedia. Okay. So we're going to talk. So the goals of today's lesson is for you to be able to explain what encyclopedia is, not just know what it is, but be able to explain it to somebody else. And then students will be able to determine when to use an encyclopedia. It's great to know what something is, but it's, if you don't know when you're supposed to use it, knowing what it is isn't that helpful, right? So, to start, encyclopedias, it's best to start off by talking about dictionaries for just a moment. So if you remember from the last couple weeks, we talked about dictionaries a little bit. A dictionary is a book that tells you the meaning of a word. Whenever you find a word that you've never seen before or never heard before, just look it up in a dictionary. The thing is, it tells you the meanings of the words, but it has the words in a certain order. It's not just random. It's a list, right? And the list is in alphabetical order. Encyclopedias, as it happens, are similar to dictionaries. In that they are both an alphabetical list of entries. So, and also like dictionaries, there are specific encyclopedias. We're not going to really mess around with that too much, but just know that like with dictionaries, that there's general dictionaries talk about the entire English language, and then there's like science dictionaries that just tell you about words that you're going to need to use whenever you're dealing with science. Same thing with encyclopedias. The difference is a dictionary is only going to be one book normally, whereas an encyclopedia, a general encyclopedia, is usually going to be like 22 books long. And then the other major difference here is that encyclopedias don't talk about words, they talk about subjects. People, places, things, ideas. So now, sometimes you can find the same word in a dictionary and an encyclopedia, but they're going to talk about it differently. My kind of allegory here is, or analogy here is a toaster and an oven, right? You can cook bread in an oven or in a toaster, but it's going to come out differently. Same thing here. Dictionary and encyclopedia might talk about running. A dictionary is just going to give you one sentence. It's going to tell you that running is moving quickly. But an encyclopedia is going to talk about what running is, why we do it, for exercise, for sports, and they're going to talk about notable runners throughout history. Just talk about running in depth. Why is it important? Why do we care about that? Dictionaries are going to go into that. They'll tell you it's a verb though. All right, so those are the key differences, right? So we kind of arrive at our point here, right? An encyclopedia is an alphabetical list of subjects, and it gives you information about that topic. Okay, so cool. Wait, I know what one is. Why do I need it? Well, there are two reasons we're going to talk about today. The first one is when you need a starting point. Sometimes you have a topic you know nothing about. Someone might tell you need to do some research on, a nettle, and you don't know what a nettle is. Is that like a kettle? Is that is that something I use in the kitchen? Is it an animal? Well, as it happens, it turns out nettle is a type of plant. Okay. I wouldn't have known that unless I looked it up. Other things like that happen all the time. There are lots of names that could be, it could be a plant, it could be an animal, it could be a country. Turkey, for instance, is both a country and a bird. But then also, when you're talking about people, information about a person can usually be found in the biography section. But if that person isn't that notable, like if people around the whole country don't have a reason to talk about this person, they might just be like a chapter in a book pertaining to their subject, like a scientist. Maybe the scientist did some cool stuff for their field. They're really great at, maybe the scientist who discovered ostriches, I guess, as an example. There might not be a biography about them. But if you find a book about ostriches, it'll talk about that person. So finding out if a person was in government, science, or sports can help you find out what part of the library there might be more information in, especially if you remember Dewey Decimal, right? So, but when you first need your starting point, an encyclopedia is a great place to go, right? It's not the last place you should go for your book report or whatever it is you're doing, but it is the first one. The other time to use an encyclopedia is when you need a quick answer, right? So encyclopedia entries are only a few paragraphs to a few pages. It's not a whole book about that topic. They talk about, their subject for a few paragraphs, a few pages, and then they move on. So they'll talk about the most important bits, right, which is good. A full book about George Washington Carver, though, is going to be more informative than an encyclopedia entry. So if I just need to know like 5 or 6 things about George Washington Carver, I'll pull up an encyclopedia. Now, if I were writing something a lot more detailed, then I would go to a book. But again, we talked about the fact that encyclopedias are a good starting point. I'm just gonna bring up an encyclopedia first, get the first gist, and then I'll go find a book. In fact, if I were to pull up an encyclopedia, I would find out that George Washington Carver did a lot with agriculture and farming, which is in the 600s. So I might go over there and check out that, and that he spent a lot of time at Tuskegee Institute. Okay, I look up where that is, and then maybe I find a book about Tuskegee Institute, get more information there. So that can be a great way to, sort of get more information, pad out your report, talk about things more in depth. All right, so we've talked about what an encyclopedia is, an alphabetical list of subjects, and information about the topic, and then when to use one, when you need a starting point or when you need a quick answer. Okay. In our next step of the class, we're going to actually talk about a scavenger hunt. We're going to do one together. So you all are going to be using an encyclopedia yourself. I'm going to go through it. We're going to talk about it. I'll give you examples, and then I'll let you do a few on your own with the guidance of my assistant, of course. Thank you very much. All right, let's get to it. Found what I needed, or an online encyclopedia, because that's something we're going to talk about also. Are online encyclopedias. All right, print encyclopedias are great, but let's face it, things are different. All right, and this is actually a resource I'm going to show you now called Tennessee Electronic Library. We're going to do a little scavenger hunt using this resource. Okay, this electronic online encyclopedia. Just to give you an idea, just to let you know, this is something you can do on your own, and just to get you really familiar with what encyclopedias are like. What do they look like? What do they do? Okay, so you'll be going to tntel.info. That's Tennessee TEL. So T is in toy, N is in no, T is in toy, E is in electric, L as in legendary.info. INFO. Okay. tntel.info. Go there. You'll see this website that's currently on my screen, right? They have like homework help, test prep, career tools, records about citizens, genealogy. All right. And then down here on the side, it has featured resources. So it has archived of a famous magazine, The Tennessean. Language stuff, TEL for you, and then there's this one called World Book Online. World Book Online. Need you to click that one. It'll take you to this new page. Again, it'll have Tennessee Electronic Library up at the top, free resources for Tennesseans. I'll have this big button here that says use this resource. Click it. Okay. Now, somewhere during this process, it may ask you to verify that you are in fact from Memphis, or it'll ask you where you are. It might not read that you are actually in Memphis for some reason. Don't know why that is happening, but anyways, you'll just need to click in the drop-down menu, Memphis, and then put in your zip code, Doubletree's zip code, Doubletree Elementary zip code, where you're effectively learning, is 38109. So if you do not know your home zip code, you are a Doubletree student. Effectively, your zip code is 38109. All right. So once you get here, you'll see this page right here, World Book Student, Educator Tools. I should probably not going to say that for you. Okay. It'll have quick links, advanced search, and then it'll have this little backboard that has like a featured page. I can click that, and it'll take me. Woohoo! It has this little entry article here. Okay. This one is about polar bears. All right. So it's got a nice, cool picture here. Ooh. Okay. All right, and then it's got this. All right. So we have the title, which is the words in big bold, letting you know, okay, this is the most important part, polar bear, all right? Then it has over here on the side, just 4 little lines, 1, introduction, body, habits, polar bears, and people. So click introductions, goes up to the top, click habits, or polar bears and people, and it just scrolls through it. But obviously this is not very long. This is, if this were in a book, it would be a page, maybe a page and a half, right? So it tells you what a polar bear is. It's a large white bear of the north. They live in regions where the sea freezes in winter, chiefly along the northern coasts and islands of Alaska, Canada, Greenland, Norway, and Russia. All right. So it tells you, there's this section literally called body. It tells you what the body is. What does a polar bear look like? How big is it? What does it do? How do they help survive? Their fur is camouflage for hunting. They have good eyesight and a keen sense of smell. Okay, cool. Habits. So, like, what do polar bears do? They eat seals. All right. They are active throughout the winter, which, if any of you remember hibernation, you know is very different from like a lot of bears, like black bears and brown bears, who are not active through the winter. So, neat. Again, it tells you all about like how cubs are. They're blind at birth, weigh only about 1.5 pounds, and then they leave their mom at 2.5 years. Wild polar bears may live up to 33 years, and those in captivity may live a little bit longer. Right, and then it has a little section down at the bottom talking about how polar bears interact with people. All right, so that's just one article. Okay. You can look up anything. Polar bears, right? Well, you can look up different kinds of animals. Arctic fox. If I can spell. Hey, Arctic fox, all right? So this one's also, again, not very long. It's just 3 paragraphs. It's a small fox that lives on the treeless coastal areas and islands of the Arctic Ocean. About 20 inches tall. I can look up people. George Washington Carver. And it actually has several articles here. So this is great. So this is an example where sometimes you actually have several different options to pick from. And of course, the one at the top is what we're looking for, Carver, George Washington, because of course you go by the last name first when talking about people. But it does have some other things. So George Washington Carver National Monument. So that talks about a monument to him. Tuskegee Institute National Historic Site, which I believe, yeah, wait, what? Okay, yeah, so that was a place that he taught at, right? So this not only is going to send you to the article all about that one person, but it'll also bring up articles related to that person, right? Neat. So you click George Washington Carver. This one's a little bit longer. This will probably be like 2 pages in a normal book. But again, over here on the side, you have introduction, early years, Tuskegee instructor and researcher, and awards and honors. And then, of course, Carver, George Washington, 1864, question mark because we're not sure, through 1943, was an African-American scientist who won international fame for his agricultural research. Agriculture, of course, means planting, right? Growing things. plants, all that sort of stuff. So, farming, right? He's the peanut guy. All right. So you can look up all different kinds of people here. So this is a great resource if you need to learn about people, places, things throughout history. This is a great place to start. Now, this is not going to have information on people who have just come out in the last couple of years. You know what? Let's just see. Usher. Yeah, see, I'm not even sure that it has information on, like, yeah, it doesn't even have Usher, right? So there are certain pop culture individuals who are not going to be on here. I would not expect your favorite TikTok artist to have an article on the World Book Encyclopedia. Just getting that bit of disappointment out of the way now. Right, so look up whenever you're, if they only came out in the last 5-10 years, chances are they're probably not going to be here. But this is still going to have a lot of useful information throughout time and history. Like I said, you can look up running and find out all about different kinds of running. It's a vigorous form of exercise and a sport. That's more information on running than I expected them to have, I'll be honest. So what you all are going to do today is you're going to have a scavenger hunt based around space exploration. The first question is, what do satellites do? Now, I'm going to run through it with you at first. And I'm going to run a little bit through the second one with you. And then I will leave it up to my instructor to ask you the questions and have you answer. Okay? So this video will end pretty shortly. All right. So the first one is, what does a satellite do? Right. So this is space exploration, right? Satellites. So it's not asking about your satellite. Well, it is actually asking about your satellite dish if you have one. Fun fact. Right. So you look up satellite. That's the key word here. What does a satellite do? Looking up what does a or do is not going to give you anything. Satellite. Okay. So this first one is, satellite is a heavenly body that orbits a larger body such as planet or asteroid. All right. However, they're asking about satellites, and there are two kinds of satellites, right? Fun fact, the Earth is a satellite. It orbits around the sun, okay? The moon is a satellite. It orbits around the Earth. Sometimes it's just talking about something that's going around something else. That's not what we're talking about. The question is actually about satellite artificial. We scroll down and we look for satellite artificial. Artificial just means created. If you see something that says artificial flavors, that means that's not a real apple that they put into your apple juice. They made some kind of funky powder that was tested, and people said, yeah, this tastes enough like apple, and they're using that instead as a flavoring. It's made up. Doesn't mean it's bad for you, just it was made in the lab. It was created artificially, created by people, right? So an artificial satellite is a manufactured, created object that continuously orbits Earth or some other body in space. Okay. So it says most artificial satellites orbit Earth, right? The Earthlings made most of the satellites, right? So they're mostly going around Earth. People use satellites to study the universe, help forecast the weather, transfer telephone calls over the oceans, assist in the navigation of ships and aircrafts, monitor crops and other resources, and support military activities. All right, so they're just beaming information all over the place, and that's the answer. Right, they're beaming information around the world to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. And hey, you can actually scroll down and find out, like it says, satellite orbits, types of artificial satellites, the life and death of a satellite, history. So you can find out like when artificial satellites started being made. How long does a satellite usually last up in space, and if there's been satellites anywhere else, which turns out they've been on the moon, or around the moon, around the sun. No satellites could be on the sun; they would burn up, right? around the moon, the sun, asteroids, and the planets Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. All right, cool. Now, the next question, is actually asking about, how does a spacecraft escape Earth's orbit to get into space? Okay, so the key word here is spacecraft and gravity. This one's a little bit trickier. Okay, so the first one it gives you is Lagrange point, which it says that's a special location near two astronomical bodies orbiting each other. A lot of big words there. I can just go ahead and tell you that rules it out. Then it's like a lot of biographies. Of course, hey, there are a lot of astronauts. They've been significant. Unfortunately, the words spacecraft and gravity turns out to be pretty vague. But you get down to space exploration. Okay, so in this one, this is a much bigger article, right? I can scroll for quite a while. This is huge. But however, we don't need to go that deep into it. Oh, down here on the side, you have the phrase "getting into space and back." So, what I want you all now to do is to get to this point. So again, get to tntel.info, click on World Book, make sure to tell them you're from Memphis if they ask. Look up space exploration and get to this line here, getting into space and back. Okay, and then try and read that first paragraph and or read that. Yeah, it'll be probably in the third paragraph there, just to give you an idea of where you should be looking. All right, the rest of the questions are in the hands of my faithful instructor. He'll be guiding you through the rest of this. But yeah, there are about 4 more questions after this that you'll all be able to try and work on at some point. So take care and have a great rest of your day. But yeah, so these are encyclopedias. It's all about finding information, using it to the best of your ability. But hey, you got this. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.